Hello, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the host of the station. Folks, I am excited every time I do this show. I'm so blessed to be able to bring to you guests that can help you have a better life, resources that can help you. And I have to do a public service announcement which ties into the show today. This is September, and September is World Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Those who have lived with it as a caregiver will never forget it. Those of you who are caregiving for someone, those of you who have any type of dementia, my heart to yours. We need to make this everyday awareness. You'll see that on my own personal page. I will always advocate and I will always speak about Alzheimer's because it is near and dear to my heart. As anyone who knows my background. And with me today is a phenomenal guest, and I'm so honored to have Dr. Carol Sargent on with me today. She has a phenomenal background, scientific background. She was a caregiver to people in her family who had Alzheimer's. She developed a specialist dementia holiday organization. She is CEO and founder of Sargent Group Consulting. Can't read my own handwriting. Is it consults, Carol? Can't read my own handwriting. Consulting. Oh, see, folks, I don't have a computer. I do all my handwritten notes. Sorry about that. She has a free booklet, Holidaying with Dementia, Your 10-Step Approach. And she also is an author of this phenomenal book. It's a #1 Amazon bestseller, the Caregiver's Advocate book. Now, if you listen to my show, I had Debbie Compton on a while back in June, who was the creator of this book. And Dr. Carol Sargent's chapter is Fill Your Life with New Experiences, how to go on vacation with your loved one. And I can't wait to hear that. Carol is also co-host of a podcast, All Inclusive Solutions, which is heard wherever you hear your favorite podcast. She's on several advisory boards. She is a very busy woman. And she just came back from Valley from traveling, and I'm so honored to have you on with me today.
It's absolutely great to have the opportunity to share my passion with all your listeners about how dementia isn't just things finish. People can still have new experiences. And for me, one of the important things is to continue to find the freedom and joy through meeting new people, having those new experiences, and spending quality time with people through travel. So that's what I spend my time giving people the confidence that it's something you can still do.
I love that. Do you mind if I call you Carol?
Not at all. No, I don't have any nicknames. When I was younger, actually, my dad used to call me Carol Ann Pots and Pans because my name is Ann, and apparently I made a lot of noise. But no, everybody just calls me Carol.
Well, Carol, I so agree with you because of my own experience with caregiving for my husband, Matt. I would take Matt out to the mall. He loved going to the mall, going to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donut that we have here. And I actually would have people say to me, I see you taking your husband out. I'm going to start taking out my loved one. And I just want to encourage people, folks, and I say this a lot when I talk to different guests who are dementia specialists or, who are in the field, that you don't have to sit home and twiddle your thumbs and wait to die. You need to live. And yes, I'm passionate about this because you can go out and you can have a good time. And I say this, go out, do what you could do with your loved one, or if you have dementia yourself, do what you can do while you still can do it. And Carol is a great resource to tell you how. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is about continuing to live your best life, and it's finding out what approaches work for you, because we're all different people. We all want to do different things. We all have different personalities that mean we'd be more comfortable with approaching a situation one way versus another. And we all are individuals that are willing to take different kinds of risks. And for me, that's what I spend my time doing, is helping people see that there is a solution out there if you're worried about going out. And, don't stop living your life. Yeah, go for it.
Yes. I've given suggestion like going out to a restaurant. It's been my experience, to go out early, not when they're sundowning, and to go when the place is quiet. You don't want to go on a major holiday with the big crowds out and have to wait in line. And you know what, I used to worry, Carol, what people thought when I would order for Matt or when I would cut his food or if they saw me feeding him. And I used to think, what are they thinking? But then I got to the point where, you know what, I don't care what people think. Let them come up and ask me a question, and I'd be more than happy to share with them about early onset Alzheimer's. And then you just have to say to yourself, don't let that stop you from going out and enjoying life, what people think.
Exactly.
It could be a long time.
But you clearly have a great can-do personality, going to do it, and you clearly saw the difference that going out to that restaurant made to your husband, yeah?
Yes,
and
and
what? Yourself.
Yes, and you know what, people are going to stare. They did. They stared at us, and I wanted to say, take a video and make it go viral. Back in when I was a child, I used to say take a picture and make it last longer. But yeah, you're gonna get stares, but so what? It's so important to enjoy life. Go ahead, Carol.
No, and what I was going to say is, sometimes you will get stares no matter what. But I think, in taking lots and lots of people on holiday with the organization I founded before this, I found lots of ways that maybe you didn't get stared at as much. Often people with dementia can not be that tidy when they're eating. So I saw a whole range of solutions that people took to make it less conspicuous that actually they needed something to catch the food. We had one couple came on holiday, and she had neckerchiefs that coordinated with each of his shirts that he actually wore all the time, so that when they did go and eat at the restaurant, nobody saw that he was wearing something, to stop the food going on his clothes. But when he'd finished his dinner, off it came, and it, went in our bag, ready to get washed. So, there are things like that. Not all gentlemen might want to wear a neckerchief. The other thing that we found from somebody else is you can get these really neat stick-on napkins, double-sided, or you can even make your own, double-sided sticky tape on the top of the napkin, and at the bottom, where nobody saw, you could twist it around, and it had a little trough to catch food. So, some things that you can be quite worried about, what will people think, or they'll stare when they see it. You can make, choices and find solutions that that work for you. And equally going to a restaurant beforehand and chatting to them to explain what you need to make visiting that restaurant with your loved one with dementia can make a huge difference. We used to always say, can we have a quiet table, away from that hideously noisy coffee machine that truly nobody would rather sit at because it's noisy. But for a lot of people with dementia, that can make them really, really anxious. So we would go and have those discussions, and even pre-ordering. We did that for certain people. If that was anxious, then we just pre-ordered for the whole group, and actually that saved us time. And there was none of that sort of embarrassing silences about giving your order if a waiter comes along. Excuse me. There's some of the things that you can do that make it that little bit easier. But you still got to take the plunge and decide, I'm not sitting here, I'm going to go out, see the daylight, see other people and do new things. That has to come from you.
Yes, definitely. And back when, 14 years ago, when Matt was diagnosed, no one encouraged me to go out. I had to, learn this on my own. It was basically, and especially when my mother-in-law was diagnosed, which was like 24 years ago, you were like sent home to die, really. Get your things in order. And just wanting to die. It's not like that anymore, folks. It's not. Go out there and live life and enjoy it. And I'll tell you what, I have a whole new appreciation for life after Matt. And, you just have to enjoy each day. And what I find, Carol, and I'm sure you have found this too, is that people concerned about, how do I handle this later on, or how do I handle that? Don't worry about that stuff. Live each day and go out as much as you can. It got to a point where I needed to have our son with us to help Matt, to the bathroom. So go out and enjoy life and travel if you can. And Carol can tell you about that because I'd like to hear about. I'd like to hear about two things, Carol. Your free booklet, because people always want free stuff. How people can get that, and about the chapter in your book. And the book, Caregivers Advocate, is just phenomenal. And I knew it was going to be a bestseller. I knew it because it's a book that is full of resources, much needed in all over the world, globally. This book is needed. And if you know a caregiver, buy it for them. And because everyone is going to end up being a caregiver at some time.
Yeah. No, great to be able to chat about both those things. My booklet, Holidaying with Dementia, 10-Step Approach, that is free because I want people to use that to find out the approaches they can take to continuing traveling, because it's something everybody enjoys doing. And it is something that I update every 4 to 6 months based on feedback I get from the people who have been downloading it. And the latest version went up 5 months ago, and there are over 5,000 people who have downloaded it and are using it to think, how do I do that holiday? And the first thing in that booklet, and I forgot to say where they could get it, so I will do that before I start describing all the different things. You can get that booklet by going onto my website, www.sargentgroup.consulting. And I'm sure the link for that will be in the notes along with the podcast, Betsy, so people can see how to spell Sargent, because even if I spelled it out with my Scottish accent when I lived in the US, nobody could distinguish my A's from my E's. And you probably don't know what I'm saying right now. But
no, I do. I had a Scottish grammar school teacher in 2nd and 3rd grade. She was from Scotland.
So
yeah.
You have an advantage compared to other people then. So yeah, the free booklet, and it's really thinking about how you start thinking about holiday to make sure you pick that right holiday. And it may be that there's steps you do in between, like going out to a restaurant, taking the train to get somewhere for a day, just to build up confidence that those are things that work for you and your loved one. But the 10 steps really start with, why do you want a holiday? And that's having a discussion. Not just one person wanting a holiday and another one going along with it. It's really thinking about, why do we want to go on holiday? Is it a change of scene? Is it to go back and visit somewhere that, has really great memories for you? Is it because you want to spend time with your children and grandchildren? It's thinking about that first. And having done that, cast your net wide. It's then, what's stopping me? Because really, if you're downloading this book, you're probably not 100% confident about going and doing that holiday. And step 2 is really the most important thing of everything that's in the ebook. And, that is about identifying why you're worried. What are the barriers that are stopping you or have been stopping you from just going on and booking that holiday? And that's really important. And that can be pretty tough sometimes because, excuse me, I've got a tickly cough today. Some of the things are things that maybe you haven't discussed before with your son or daughter, or with your husband and wife, or with your friends. But it's really critical and important to do that, because in doing that, it's not just helping you to get that holiday, it's also helping you to understand one another so that you can give the right support that everybody needs, the person with dementia and the person that's supporting them. Because all too often we go along with things, we make assumptions, and those are the things that can stop us from living our best lives or cause frustrations. And in that section, it's about recognizing sometimes maybe you need to speak to somebody who's looking from the outside, who can help you perhaps see a solution when all you can see is, a great big barrier. There's no way we could possibly go in a plane because it's just not going to happen. It's going to be too stressful. The airport's too busy, and oh my gosh, getting onto that plane, and what are we going to do when we're on that plane? What happens if, my husband doesn't settle on the plane? What on earth am I going to do? So it's having those sorts of discussions with a range of different people and finding out what you're willing to take that risk and do, and try in a different way, and find out ways you could, test out flying. You maybe don't, I don't know where in the States you are, Betsy. What would a short flight be for you?
I'm in New Jersey, so like a short flight might be to Tennessee, maybe 2 hours. Although nowadays with the flight delays, Carol, who knows? There's a lot of canceled flights and flight delays now, so I couldn't even picture, if Matt was alive, taking him on a plane the way things are. Getting checked, waiting, and if there's delay, I know that he wouldn't have been able to handle that.
And so, what you're saying is a lot of people's starting points, but there are so many things that are in place now if you pick the right airport, if you pick the right airline. For example, I just flew back from Bali yesterday, and Birmingham Airport, which is one of our local airports in the UK, not London Heathrow or London Gatwick, the big ones. I deliberately flew through a small airport. There is something called the Sunflower Lanyard. I don't know if you've heard of that, Betsy.
No, I haven't heard that.
So it's an initiative that started in the UK at Gatwick Airport, and now there are airports all throughout the world who recognise Sunflower Lanyard, which is a green lanyard with bright yellow sunflowers that you can wear, just round your neck, or equally you can get a really neat pin with a sunflower, because a lot of gentlemen don't like wearing lanyards because they think they look like necklaces. And basically airports that have joined this initiative, they've trained their staff to recognise person wearing this needs some extra time and some extra help.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So if you've got that on, you're fast-tracked through security. In fact, when we paid for fast track the last time, not to Bali, the last time we'd been away, and anybody that had a sunflower lanyard and was travelling by themselves, there was a member of staff at Birmingham Airport who actually accompanied the person going through security. So if their bag, went the other way and needed to be searched through, there was somebody there to reassure and help them. These things exist in the airports. There are quiet rooms where actually you don't have to sit with all the noise. In airports, that are part of this initiative. And, equally, if you contact your airport ahead of time, you can book support. I went through Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam yesterday, and they have amazing electric vehicles that transport people all through different parts of the airport. So you're not stressing about where on earth is that gate, how am I going to get there, and exhausting yourself to the point that you don't know what's happening, and you're being grumpy to one another. So passenger assistance is there at a lot of airports now. My mum, we found the plane was more relaxing for her to travel to see us from Scotland to England. Hated the pressure of rushing onto the plane. She felt she was slowing people up, so we were always the last person on the plane, explained at the check-in desk before we got on the plane, and there was always a space to put her hand luggage, and equally she was the last one off because that just made it easier for her as well. So there are lots and lots of things that people can really help and support you, and there are organisations that can provide you with an air travel companion to take that pressure off, to think of different activities that you can do. So, I'd say don't say no straight away. You may still say no when you hear what the options are that could make it easier, but there are so many things that are changing all the time, and there's so many amazing adaptations. In fact, the US is leading the way to make wheelchair air travel better. They've mandated that in 2030, all planes that are built must have a toilet on an airplane that's big enough for a wheelchair user. And they've also, Delta Airlines have developed a new seat on an airplane where somebody can remain in their wheelchair. Imagine that, none of the awful things about, getting in a wheelchair. Anyway, Betsy, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's okay. I want to ask you, do you help people that are just in the UK, or can someone from the United States consult with you about travel?
All over the world. I lived in the US for 5 years. I traveled once a month to the US when I was still a scientist. I have contacts who are consultants in the US who know more about the nuances. I collaborate with an organization called Dementia Friendly Airports that was started off in the US. So, UK, I know more about, but I know lots about transport and accommodation in lots of different countries, and I have people that I work with who are experts in those different countries too. So, no, it's not just the UK. In fact, I've learned lots from countries like the US and Australia, where traveling is pretty much, a form of transport that is more common, just to see, the right position, as an example. Whereas, us in the UK, we can get most places by a car in a reasonable time. When you're speaking about bigger countries, it's quite different. But no, and I recognise the importance of different languages. We don't go on vacations here in the UK. We go on holidays, yeah. And I'm
right, yeah,
all the time, not vacations, because I haven't delved into that. And they're the important things, and there are cultural differences, about holidays and all sorts of things. But we're about really supporting everybody wherever they are in the world to holiday as close to home or as far away from home as they want to.
Wow. Well, Carol, I'll tell you what, you are definitely a wonderful resource for people to connect with to help them with travel. Now, I never even heard of the two things you had mentioned. The sunflower, what's the exact name of that, Carol? Sunflower?
So it's sunflower lanyard. So if I'm just looking quickly on my computer as we chatted. So the website is hiddensunflower.com.
That's a great resource. See, I never heard of that. And I never even heard of dementia-friendly airports either. I've heard of autism-friendly airports, quiet rooms for those with autism, but I did not know about ones for dementia. So, you know what, folks? I learn from every guest. I do. And I think that's why I bring guests on, like Dr. Carol Sargent, to help you, a phenomenal resource. And before we run out of time, I want to get to your chapter of your book, because your free book sounds great. Folks, that will be information on how to get that will be in the blog, so I highly recommend you read that. And can you tell us about the chapter that you wrote for the Caregivers Advocate?
Yeah,
that sounds phenomenal.
Yes, and it's been, as you highlighted, you had Debbie on your podcast, and just reiterate, there is lots and lots of good information. Each of the authors is passionate about supporting caregivers, because without them, none of us would be able to get the health care that we currently get. All these unsung heroes who are giving all their time, money, and love to the people that they're supporting. So, I was the only UK author on it, which again was quite interesting. Made me think about the words I was using, and had a lot of help to make sure some of the descriptions I wrote. Because in this book, it's not just here are the tips and you should do it. Each author has written a short story really explaining why they're writing a chapter on this topic. And I'll be honest, it was the first time I'd written a story since I was in, now I've forgotten the name, the first school you go to when you start education, because I learned very early on it was much easier to write a very factual debate story than write something imaginative and creative and discussive. So I had to learn how to write again. I wasn't sure I was going to be much good at it, but I loved doing it. And I wrote about the couple who actually were on the most number of holidays in the organisation I ran before, called Mine for You. A gentleman called Jim and his wife Sylvia, who had dementia. And I wrote about it the very first time they came on a holiday. And, I spoke to Jim lots before he came. And I wasn't actually sure he was ever actually going to make it to the holiday, because he was worried about the travel. He was worried about how Sylvia, his wife, would manage with the holiday. And they actually drove probably one of the furthest distances you could do in the UK, all the way from down in the south in Bristol in England, all the way up to the middle of Scotland to a place called Pitlochry. And, initially I thought, oh my gosh, that's not a great idea. But Jim always travelled by car to visit his family in Scotland, and his wife Sylvia just loved everything about Scotland. So there's a little story about their first experience on coming away, and how after Jim arriving and telling the other people that were on holiday that it was lovely to meet them and sorry he'd be leaving the next day because they never managed to stay anywhere, to Jim and Sylvia actually going on 9 holidays with us and then becoming really true friends, to the extent that when Sylvia sadly passed away, I gave a eulogy at her funeral, which I was really, really touched to be able to speak about Sylvia and about the wonderful relationship she had with her husband Jim. And his last name was Wallace, and Sylvia loved everything about Scotland, and Wallace Tartan was one of the big things, and the whole congregation sang her favourite song, which she'd adapted, a famous Scottish song, and we all sang how her Jimmy lived over the ocean. But yeah, there's a story about them, very short, and then really it goes on to explain about the service, excuse me, that my organisation provides to people from any country to help them to be confident about can they still go on holiday, and if so, how they pick that right holiday. What destination, what kind of accommodation, and what support they might need. Because you described, Betsy, how you took your husband out and then you needed additional support, you found.
Right, yes.
And, those are the things that it's important to be able to identify what, both of you may need when you go out. And, support can be in the form of a family member. It can be going on holiday with a family member. It can be going with a professional to give personal care. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a drink of water.
Sure. I'll tell you, Carol, I never realized how important it would be to have like a family-type bathroom, where men and women can both go in, because Josh, our son, had to go in with Matt to help him. Thankfully, at doctor's offices, I could just go in and help Matt. And also handicapped parking. You don't realize how little there is of handicapped parking until you need it. And that's something I realized. Yeah, go ahead.
And, one of the most important things in getting right when you go away is that bathroom. And it's making sure it's set up in a way that allows everybody to use it in a way that works for them. And also thinking about, support can come in the forms of different kinds of equipment. It may be that you need a raised toilet seat. It may be that you need a particular grab rail. There are all different aspects that could be really key. Some people, it's critical that it's a completely level walk-in shower. These are all things that you need to recognize what you've got in your own home and make sure wherever you're going has those facilities. And like you say, it's big enough. So if your loved one needs that little bit more reassurance or needs some help, you can be there and able to give that support in a way that's comfortable for you. Because the last thing you want to do is to be twisting and turning and, pulling a muscle or doing whatever because there isn't enough space for yourself. So that's really, really important. And one of the things we used to find often, carers would come with these enormous suitcases, but when they opened out, there was hardly anything for themselves. A lot of the space was taken with incontinence pads they needed to take on holiday. And, we started saying to people, look, just ask the hotel, can they accept a delivery of particular equipment or particular, in my description, incontinence pads? So actually, you're not carrying a great big suitcase with lots and lots of stuff, and you're worrying if things run out. These are the sorts of things that actually you can ask for. And, the other part of what we do at Sargent Group Consulting is working with businesses who are in the travel and tourism sector to say, look, you should be offering this to your guests so they can take advantage and you can distinguish yourself from your competitors.
That is a great idea. That about asking the hotel if they can have a delivery of incontinence pads and whatever else you might need, so you don't have to take all that heavy necessities, accessories with you on a trip. Carol, before we finish, I can't believe how fast the time goes. I wanted to ask you about your podcast. You were co-host of All Inclusive Solutions. What is your podcast about?
So I co-host it with a retired GP in English language, which is a primary care physician. I think it's the right word in the US. So Tom is a fellow Scot, like myself, come from the same part of Scotland, and he worked in Peak District, an area in sort of the middle of England, not far from me. And his mum and dad both had dementia, and his mum sadly had a fall just before she died, and he developed a product which lights up and gives you a message when you want to get out of bed and go to the bathroom to stop falls. So he and I feel passionate about sharing different solutions, people across all sorts of disabilities, chronic illnesses, aging populations, so that we can learn from one another and get that neat solution, or think about learning from different groups. So, for example, today we have Louise Hunt-Skelly, who is a retired international wheelchair tennis player, and she speaks about the different solutions she's found as a wheelchair user. And we had a great discussion because I have a new hip I've had already. I need 2 new knees and another hip, and tennis used to be the sport I loved, but I'm just not able to play it with confidence now. And chatting to her made me think, gosh, why hadn't I thought about taking up wheelchair tennis? And I could still play tennis, and I suspect at some point I'll probably be in a wheelchair a little bit quicker than my peers. It would give me the confidence that, hey, this piece of kit is pretty cool, and gosh, I could learn and be really proficient. So when I may not be able to do the things I want with my own 2 legs, I've actually learned about a wheelchair. So it's those sorts of discussions we have with all different people who are, working their way around finding solutions to the different things that life throws at us. Because, I know in the UK, and I think it's the same in the US, people don't speak about disabilities, particularly invisible disabilities. But, my view is if we don't speak about it, we're not going to find solutions that allow us to continue to live our best lives. And that's really what it's about. Let's chat, find those solutions, and maybe apply them for ourselves. So that's what all inclusive solutions are. And because the 2 of us we approach it in a slightly different way. Tom's a medical professional, I'm a scientist, but we also want to just encourage other people who have got, most people have found solutions to difficult things in their lives, but don't share them, don't develop them. So we also have people that have, set up businesses with different products, sharing how you can take that idea and, make sure other people can see the benefits that you've seen from those little adaptations that we all tend to do. We just don't think they're that important necessarily, but lots of those things are what make a difference because, we're an aging population. This is going to be the first time that 5 generations are going to be alive. The only way we're going to live a quality life, which for me, it's not how long I live, it's the way I live when I'm alive, then we need to be more open about all these things and find those solutions, and use them.
Oh, I agree, Carol. And that can be heard wherever you hear your favorite podcast, and I highly recommend that. Carol, thank you so much for joining me today. You're a very busy woman. Folks, you heard Dr. Carol Sargent. All the information about Carol will be in the blog that Jeannie White writes, who's Jeannie is the station manager and produces the show. I highly recommend going on the website. You just got a tip of the iceberg of what Dr. Carol Sargent is about. Go on her phenomenal website and look at all that Dr. Carol Sargent offers on her website. Wonderful. You're a wonderful woman, Carol. You have passion. I love that. You have fire. I love it. I wish I could hug you in person. So I'm sending you a hug from New Jersey all the way to the UK. It's sharing, folks. This is why I do my show. Carol, is to share resources. And I'm a New Jersey girl. I'm very blunt. So I'm going to say this. When you have information that can help someone and you don't share it, that's being selfish. Share information, folks. Help other people. This is what Chatting with Betsy is all about. It's not about me. I might talk about my family, but this show is I'm passionate about sharing resources that I wish were available when my husband was alive or that I wish I knew about when he was alive to help other people. That's what I'm here for. This is what my show is about. And I'm very passionate about it, as you can tell. And I want to thank everyone for listening and those who have subscribed. If you don't already subscribe to Chatting with Betsy, it is for free on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, just to name a few, Apple. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Pastoral Talk Radio Network, who makes this all possible. Excuse me. And I just want to encourage everyone to share this show to help other people. Let them know about Dr. Carol Sargent. She can help you. She can help you about planning a holiday, a vacation, and many other ways. This book, The Caregiver's Advocate, which is Amazon bestseller, buy the book. It's a necessary book. I wish there was a book like this available 14 years ago. And I just want to encourage everyone to share information. We share gossip that hurts people at times. Why don't we share information that's going to help people, encourage people, lift people up? This is what we're here for, folks. And that's what I believe. And I just thank you again, Dr. Carol Sargent, for all you do to help other people and caregivers and their families. And what a treasure and an honor it is to have you on and to speak to you. So good luck with everything. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today. Appreciate it.
No, thank you very, very much. And, for your passionate thing, it's all about sharing things, and, that's what supporting one another is. But to share, you have to, highlight where you're struggling. And that's often the hardest thing. But if you do that, wow, what a difference it can make to your life. Yeah, that's for sure. So I completely echo what you're saying, Betsy. And interestingly, it was New Jersey that I stayed in when we lived in the U.S. So I stayed in Cranbury, New Jersey. Yes, that's where we lived.
That's funny.
We lived for 5 years. So yes, it's so important to ask for some support. Who knows what you can do? Infinitely the more you probably expect, and have fun while you're doing it.
Yes, and folks, it's not a weakness at all to ask for support. It's a sign of strength. And actually, in the U.S., September is also Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and I want to encourage everyone, if you are struggling, you are not alone, and consult your primary care doctor for any referrals in your local area. Here in the U.S., there's a hotline, 988, and wherever you are in the world, find out about your resources, because it is okay not to be okay at times. We all struggle. And it is not a sign of weakness, because we all need help at some point in our lives. And as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, please be kind and shine your light bright, because we need it now more than ever. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Chat with you again now. Bye-bye.